wouldn't do it. I said, actually, can we go down to the Capitol? They said, sir, it's better if we don't. This was before anyone knew there was a problem, because there's a lot of people and it's going to be tough. Probably not. And, you know, we had more people than I've ever seen up at the ellipse, up on top. And a small group went down to the Capitol. But I said, can you take? They said, sir, it's really a little bit tough. I said, that's okay. Whatever you think is. She had me grabbing the one around the neck and being rebuffed. And then I grabbed the other one. And these are, I know them both very well. Bobby. I know Bobby wins, Bobby. And they're good. And they're good guys, too, but they're tough guys. I think they probably could have rebuffed me. I'm a little bit older. But friends of mine love the story. They said, leave the story. You sound like the toughest dude around. It's a great story. But it was totally made up. It was all made up. But here's the end result. The J6 committee, they call it the J6 Select Committee, like select. They're not select, they're scum. So what happens, take a look at them. They're all political hacks. But here's the thing that bothers me. They found out all this stuff was untrue. They found out her story was untrue. The two guys in the car testified. It's ridiculous, they said. It is ridiculous. Can you imagine? They also, I think, said it was the Beast, and it wasn't. It was one of the other ones. But you can't even get your hands through. But to think that I would be taking on two nice young guys simultaneously. All right, Sam, I'm ripping one and ripping the other. They're crazy. And then I went back to the White House, which I love, and I started throwing hamburgers all over the place. Okay. Finish the story is this. What happened is terrible. They went a year and a half, and Kevin McCarthy, who's a very nice man, he made a mistake because we wanted Jim Banks and Jim Jordan on the committee, and so there'd be like 8 to 7 or something. And called me on this. He said they didn't want Jim Jordan. He's a fighter. They didn't want Jim Banks. He's a fighter. And so Kevin said, we don't want anybody on the committee. We think this committee's a sham. And I understood that was good for a day, but for the 2.5 years, we had nobody to fight for us. In other words, we had a committee. You know who was representing us on the committee? Crying Adam Kinzinger and Liz, the moron Cheney. That was who was on the committee. So these were the two Republicans. Kinzinger, who was a total whack job, and Cheney, who was worse than him. This was so they talk about it was a bipartisan, they call it a bipartisan commission. And I think I'd never liked the idea of not, because even if you didn't have Jim Jordan, who's very good, and Jim Banks, we have a lot of great people that would have been good, and they would have, they would have mixed it up. End result, like, they finished their report, they burned and destroyed and deleted everything. Everything. And nobody, and you know why? Because they found out that Nancy Pelosi, it was her fault. She didn't put the security. I offered 10,000 National Guard or military. They found out it was Nancy Pelosi. They found out that the stories about me attacking two very tough guys that are slightly younger than me, just a few years, that wasn't true. They found out that much of it wasn't true, and they were very embarrassed. So the Unselect Committee, I call it the Unselect Committee, which I always thought was a great name because it was a select, I call it the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs. What happened is, think of it, end of the story, they deleted and destroyed all evidence, all documents. There's nothing. And the reason they did it is because they were guilty as hell. It's the greatest cover-up, and the fake news back there will not cover it. They've never even, I think, done a story. In other words, when you go into court, we want that information. There is no information. It's been destroyed. Everything's been destroyed. We have a very crooked government. Remember that. and we're going to straighten it out, and we're going to make it an honest government.
So I have to ask you about the pardons. I keep hearing you're considering pardoning Hunter Biden. Is that true? And if so, why?
No, I mean, I've never... look, I don't like the idea of what's happening. It's ever been weaponized. The big case was the documents case. We won the case in Florida. We're winning other cases, too. But I've had to devote money and time to this. Instead of running against these stupid people, I had to devote a lot of money and a lot of time, which is what they want. I had Fani, F-A-N-I. To me, it's Fanny, but she said Fani. I think she changed it once she became the DA. She wanted to put a little French accent on Fani. and her lover boy, Wade, who was hired for like $1 million because of his expertise in whatever the hell law, RICO. But he never did a RICO case. And then they would take sailing trips like 6 times during the year, 6 times. Who the hell goes away or to sail for 6 times? Nobody. And he got paid a lot of money. He took that money, they took trips. You know, there's a whole thing, but that's just one. They totally controlled it. They control the Manhattan DA's office. They had their man in the Manhattan DA's office. He was there. They put a man in the Manhattan. They put a man into the Letitia James office. They had a guy running the whole thing. It's all run out of Washington. They went after... you know, we found a lot of bad votes. There were 2,600 votes that happened to be written by the same pen, same hand, same signature, same everything. Maybe there's an explanation for that. 2,600 votes. But we found a lot of stuff, but we're seeing to work it out. But think of it. It's hard to believe that I'm winning the election by a lot. Now, we got to keep the cheating down. We got to keep their cheating. I love you too, darling. Thank you. We got to keep their cheating down. But think of this. With all I've been through, with these animals coming and what they've done to this country, how they've hurt this country between the borders and between the weaponization. And think of it. I'm leading by a lot. I'm leading in every single swing state with all of the stuff they've done, where I've spent millions of dollars. I've spent millions of dollars on legal fees. Half of my time is taken up by this. They can campaign. Half of my time is taken up. And they're the dishonest ones. They flip it. They're the dishonest ones. But it's hard to believe. I said to somebody last night, can you believe the numbers came out last night? I'm really leading by quite a bit. Now, a lot of things can happen. Who knows? It flips, maybe. I don't know. But I'm leading by a lot. I said, can you believe I'm leading by a lot, and what they've done to me, that I'm leading at all, that I'm even living, is almost hard to believe. These are bad people.
So you've expanded and changed the Republican Party, and one of the amazing things that I have learned is that Republican voters really care about issues I didn't realize they cared about, like clean air, clean soil, clean food. You've won, somehow, the full-throated endorsement of Bobby Kennedy, lifelong Democrat, who's now like a full-time surrogate for you.
He's a very, very good man, too, by the way.
So what's that going to look like after you get elected?
Well, you know, I feel interesting about this kind of stuff. I like to, number one, get elected. I hate to talk to stuff. A lot of people, they set up, I know that even when I ran, Hillary had an office set up where they were interviewing all the, I don't want to do that. I want to get elected first, and then we'll cram a little bit. But, you know, I don't like doing it. No, I remember she set up this big office. They're interviewing people for jobs. And actually, you're supposed to do it. But I want to win. I want to win in 5 days from now. It's almost 4 days from now, right? In 5 days from now, when we have a victory, we're going to have the best people. Here's the one difference, one big difference between now and 2016. I know Washington and the people through testing, real testing. So I went from not knowing anybody and having to rely on in all fairness, Mike Pence and many other people. I had Mike Pence, and I had others, and they would recommend people. Sloppy Chris Christie recommended some people, and I wouldn't have used him had I known. But you rely on people. And by the way, I hate talking about this because we had mostly great people. Think of it. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We rebuilt the entire U.S. military. We defeated ISIS, and we had no wars. We cut more regulations than anybody in the history of the country times 5. And, but we had the best economy in the history of our country. I took in billions and billions of dollars in taxes and tariffs from China. I mean, we had an unbelievably successful administration. We were energy independent. We didn't need anybody's energy. We had so much oil, we didn't know what to do with it. And now take a look. 4 years ago, we were energy independent. Think of it. And today we're taking tar from Venezuela. They don't really have oil, they have tar. You have to heat the hell out of it. It costs you more to heat it than it does to sell it. But we are going to Venezuela. Think of it.